Yeah, it's always hard to lose a player during a game. And as you said, it's a little deflating. I thought V came in and did a good job. Made a couple plays, even though it was just a couple minutes. It's kind of representative of what we got from everybody. I thought guys kind of stepped up in their own way when they needed to. We had some guys play heavy minutes, and they did a good job. I think whenever you have adversity, if you can continue to defend through it, we had a drought there, but we did a good job. We made it hard for them defensively, except for I thought the stretch in the third quarter when we fouled made it hard. But yeah, it's a good win for a lot of reasons.
Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for another Bleav in Hawks episode. Hawks get a good win tonight over the Cleveland Cavaliers in a game coming off a back-to-back for both teams, where the Hawks pretty much played the same game and won both games. Started off hot, blew the lead in the third quarter, but won the game convincingly in the fourth, getting some good performances from guys down the stretch. But obviously, before we get into that, we got to talk about the big story of this game. Jalen Johnson injured in this game, really turned his ankle in the third quarter, could not put power on it, had to be helped off the court. And obviously this was something that caused Hawks fans to be, some of them pretty much done. The Hawks have had a very bad injury bug, especially after the All-Star break, with Onyeka being out longer than expected, Trae Young being out for a month potentially this season, and now Jalen being hurt with an ankle injury, not knowing how long he's going to be out. Him being out earlier this season after he had his arm injury as well. And so I think a lot of people right now are, kind of in a weird spot with this team. Hawks obviously got a good win tonight and you're happy about it, but I think a lot of people are asking the question, should we tank? It's a question that has been asked for weeks with this team not reaching the expectations that a lot of fans had for them this season. And now that you were down your three of your top 8 players, Trae, Onyeka Okongwu, and Jalen Johnson, is it worth tanking? Is it worth not competing? Obviously, the thing I've always said in these situations is Quin's not here to just throw in the towel. He's not going to throw in the towel. He's not going to just stop trying to win games. He's going to try to continue to work his process and work his system and work his scheme with the guys, regardless of injuries. It's just going to be tougher for him to win games right now, which, in and of itself, that could easily be taken. Because if the Hawks tank, realistically, you really don't have enough players after certain guys to still field a tanking team if you wanted, realistically. So, I get why everybody's kind of in crossroads right now about what they want to do when it comes to the season and what they want to do when it comes to the Hawks and things of that nature. For me right now, I think Jalen's injury, like I said, is the biggest concern. A guy who, has taken the next step this past season. He's been working through some things, learning this year, trying to develop, trying to improve, trying to get used to the way defenses play him now that he became a threat, and just continuing to grow his game, improvement in three-point shot. A guy who, you've seen it all. You've seen the rebounding. You've seen the playmaking. You've seen his touch around the rim. You've seen the aggressiveness. You've seen it all, the three-point shooting. And a guy who's really, like I said, continued to improve his game, took this all-ass offseason seriously to work on his game. And you've seen the fruits of his labor this season for this team, which has been one of the positive lights of this team. That's why when he was hurt early in the season, people were already kind of almost selling the season then, saying, we lost Jalen Johnson. This is such a big loss for us. And now with this happening at this point in the season, like I said, people are going to ask that question of should we tank? Because is it point winning some meaningless games to be a 10th seed and still may not even make the postseason because you're pretty much going to have to win 2 games to get in. You got to get through Chicago first, who you haven't had a lot of success against right now, currently seeded. And then I believe 8th seed right now is the Pacers, but I'm not 100% sure. Let me go check real quick. Yeah, the Pacers are the 8th seed right now. Could be the Sixers. Either or, you're going to have to maybe play one of those teams or the Heat, unless they, the standings could still change between now and then. But as current standings show, you're going to have to play maybe one of those teams to get into the postseason just to play the Boston Celtics this year. So it's one of those things where I think a lot of people are going to ask questions. Now, the big question for the Hawks, if they are going to try to compete, is what is the rotation going to be? Right now, you're probably going to move DeAndre Hunter back into the starting lineup right now. So you're probably going to go with DeJounte, Bogey, Hunter, Bay, and probably Capella. That's going to be your starting lineup. Not the prettiest lineup in the world, but it's a lineup that you have. And then your bench now, I mean, assuming Kobe can get back, let's say Kobe's healthy, you're going Kobe, Garrison Matthews, probably Krejci, to be honest. He was called up from the G League today. He'll probably be playing because he's a guy who could basically play like 2 through 4, basically, because he's a long guy. Pause. And I mean, for the most part, and Bruno Fernando is the other guy. So that's your 9-man rotation, technically, if Kobe's healthy. If not, then you just replace him with Trent Forrest. So you really, all the firepower the Hawks had coming off the bench this season, they've kind of lost with Onyeka going down, with Bogey having to start, with Bay having to start. So, that one thing that was a strength for this team, which was the bench unit, now is kind of one of your weaknesses. Now, obviously, defensively, they played well tonight. They've played well in the games they've won. So, and you would expect that to maybe continue even with these injury losses. Even though Jalen is one of our better defenders, you would still expect them to still be able to play and defend the ball and do what they need to do. But at the same time, you also understand you're losing a guy who could put points up. He didn't have the greatest scoring night before he left the game, but still a guy who is capable of scoring the ball, and you've lost a guy who can get his own shot. So again, now you're really having to get better performances from other people. Luckily, Bogey tonight had a good game. Bay had a good game tonight. DeJounte was inefficient from the field, so you want him to maybe clean that up, become a little bit more efficient. But realistically, you're losing a lot of firepower, which has been the strength of this Atlanta Hawks team. Has there been their offense this entire season, top 5 offense. With all these injuries, you've lost a lot of that offensive firepower, and so the Hawks are now having to start to try to compete and win games a little bit differently, which has been ideal for them because they've been able to play better defense to be able to win these games. But at the same time, you always do have to also take into account who they've played. You've played Cleveland with a bunch of injuries. You played the Knicks last night with some injuries. You beat Orlando when they had injuries, and then you played Utah, who is looking, I think, at the outside looking into the play-in. So your wins haven't necessarily been, in the grander terms, the most impressive teams in terms of how they were in that game that they played them in. Now, you technically could say you beat 2 500 teams in that stretch. You could definitely say that. But realistically, you're still in a place where, 3 500 teams, but at the same time, a lot of those teams are missing their best players. Cavs didn't have Donovan Mitchell. Knicks didn't have Jalen Brunson. Magic didn't have Paolo. So people are going to sit there and say, okay, well, they were playing against teams that were banged up like them, and they were just able to win those games. So, but at the end of the day, a win's a win in the NBA. So Jalen Johnson, like I said, hopefully he's not. It looked bad. I mean, obviously, when people turn their ankles, it can look god awful, and then they're out for 2 to 3 weeks. We're just gonna have to see what type of grade sprain it is. And then, like I said, the Hawks are gonna have to make a decision depending on when his timeline to come back is. Do you bring him back? Do you let him play? I mean, the season ends in the middle of next month, like early part of next month, April. I don't know exactly the last day of the Hawks' final game, but like sometime before the middle of April when play-in starts. So, you have to, like, if he's out for a month, as a Hawk, if you're the Hawks and Quin Snyder in the front office, you do have to think about, okay, is it worth, bringing Jalen back to play? Is it worth, him playing in a couple of games? And the thing is that the Hawks are in an interesting position because since they are in the play-in spot. I mean, technically, you could bring Trey, Onyeka, and Jalen back, and they could be a playing team. And so now they're playing games. And so it's like, you have something to play for. And so it's worth bringing your players back to play in those games. But I know a lot of people in the fan base are going to be like, it's pointless. There's no point to bring them back, even if we are in the play-in. I'd rather just call up Seth Lundy, Muhammad Gay, when Kobe gets healthy, him, AJ Griffin, and just let them play, and just and watch him grow and watch him improve and watch him try to impress Quin Snyder enough to say I deserve to be playing next year for this team. So and I said with Jalen's injury too, you now only have two centers, and now you're back where you were, but you don't have any wings past Bay and to me, Bay and Hunter. So you're pretty much back in the same situation you were in, where you need wings and you don't really have a lot of depth in your front court. That's why I think a lot of people looked at the signing of Dylan Windler as a very head scratching decision, because he's more of a guard, so to say, and people were wondering, why would you sign a guard when your weakest position is in your front court? Hawks front office has been hesitant this year to try to figure that out and try to solve that problem. We'll see if they do that now. I'm worried that they're going to do what they've done this season and just kind of stand pat with what they have and just say, we're going to rock with what we got and we'll just see what happens. Even though we all pretty much Bleav you got to call someone up to at least give you an extra body in the front court. First candidate I could think of, Brad Rowland told me on Twitter that Seth Lundy is not available. I've paid attention to some G League stuff, especially with Mo and AJ and them down there, but I haven't been paying attention that much, and I didn't know he was out the last few games with a back injury. I now that I think about it, I was like, oh, you're right. I never really saw Seth Lundy's name mentioned the last few G League games, but he's been out. So Seth Lundy probably won't be called up just because he's hurt. So the next guy that you can maybe call up is Muhammad Gay, but he just got back from injury. So I don't know where they are with him and if they even want him touching the main roster and playing. I have no idea. You usually, that's what you have a G League team for these situations. I don't really know what their solution is moving forward. That's why I said they may just literally play Critchie at some 3 and 4, because that's what they did tonight when Jalen went down. They put him in there. So didn't play a lot, but he went in there. So that's something clearly that they're going to have to figure out and decide what could be the best course of action moving forward with Jalen Johnson's injury and readjusting the rotation, as it seems like the Hawks, like I said right now, seem to be dropping like flies. And it's very unideal, as anybody would tell you, just about what's been going on with this team and the injuries that they've unfortunately suffered this year, from the fact that you had Hunter out, then Jalen out, both of them out at the same time. Get them back. Clint out. Clint gets back. Out. Still out longer than expected. Trey is out. Now you're back to Jalen being out. It's just been a crazy season where, if you actually think about it in the grand scheme of things, the Hawks, for the most part, have relatively been a healthy team the last few years. And what I mean by that is they've had injuries. They've had guys miss games, but they really weren't a team that had a lot of their key players missing significant time. Really, outside of DeAndre Hunter, Trey's been healthy. DeJounte's been healthy. Clint, he'll miss games here and there, maybe a week here, but nothing like monthly, nothing like super long. OO's relatively been healthy. He's missed a couple of games here and there. Bogey, he's, obviously he had his knee issues where he missed some games, but he's been pretty much, since the knee surgery, he's been pretty much playing in the games. So they really haven't had like a cluster of long-term injuries or longer injuries like they have this year, where you had Hunter, who basically almost missed too much. Jalen missed like a month and a half. Trey missing a month, potentially month and a half. Jalen, we'll see how long he misses for this injury. Clint was out for about 2 weeks. Was about out for about almost a month. You've had these long injuries that I think are what's really painful and what's really hurting this team right now. So, maybe this is that year that they just, they were due to have injuries like this. And it's just happening in a year where it seems like everything has gone wrong for the Atlanta Hawks. I know a lot of Hawks fans Bleav this season has been a season from hell. And so, and the thing about it, it's not a season of hell in terms of like we're like an 18-win team or something like those years. It's just from what we were supposed to be to the product we've seen and some of the performances we've gotten, it's just not at all what fans thought they were going to get this season. So it's been really tough for, I think people who support the team and the team itself to go through this. Frustration with the front office. A lot of things have happened. Obviously, in my last episode, I talked about Trae Young being healthy next year and, him planning on being here in Atlanta, not looking to move. So obviously that's been really, really tough to deal with for sure. But overall, I think, the Hawks, have to just figure it out and they have to just continue to play through it because that's all you really can do right now. And we'll see if anything changes. We'll see if any mindsets change. But right now, I feel like they're going to continue to play. They're going to continue to try to win games. And we're just going to have to see how things go and how things work out when it's all said and done. So, yeah. But I guess getting to the game, like officially talking about it, like I said, Hawks pretty much played the same game they played yesterday. Yesterday against the Knicks. Build up a good first half lead. I think they led by 15 after the first half. They blew it in the third quarter. Cavs came all the way back to lead. I believe they led at the end of the third quarter. And then Hawks turned up in the fourth quarter. Cavs were really bad offensively in the fourth, and the Hawks weren't really able to take advantage at first, but eventually, like I said, Bogey was able to start hitting some shots. Bay was able to hit some shots, and they were able to pull away for a 112-101 victory. They only held Cleveland to 12 points in the fourth quarter. I think that I am pretty sure that is the lowest amount of points the Hawks have given up to any team in a quarter this season, and it happened to just be in the money quarter, which is the fourth quarter. So the Hawks defensively really came to play tonight. Really, if you think about their quarter by quarter basis, 28, 21, 40, and 12. Two of those quarters you hold them to 21 and 12. 28 points is kind of like normal average, I would say, for a quarter in the NBA for a team. 40 is like, oh yeah, you had a really good quarter. That was the quarter where the Hawks really just could not get some stuff going and just did not play well defensively, especially after the loss of Jalen Johnson. And like I said, they were able to get a good win tonight in that way, and able to hold Cleveland down to 12 points was big. Realistically tonight, Hawks shot 51% from the field, almost 40% from three. Only had 9 turnovers tonight. Pretty much the assists and rebounds were pretty even, but for the most part, Hawks did what they need to do. Bay had 23 tonight. DeJounte had 18, but he did it on 7 of 21 shooting. I know we want to see better shot performances from DeJounte Murray. Bogey, like I said, came alive in that second half, had 23. Capella had 8. Jalen Ford got hurt, had 19. Well, actually, that's 19 minutes. 7, 4, and 4. Hunter, 17 points off the bench, and Bruno was 7. Had his issues in this game tonight, but gave you 7 points and 10 rebounds. Garrison with 3 points, and then Trent Forrest gave you 6 tonight. And let me get back to DeAndre Hunter real quick. Hunter, I've seen some people talking about it because Hunter really had a really strong first half. And I've seen people talk about this. I've brought it up on the podcast a couple of times. The Hawks. Well, first, Quin Snyder said after the game that DeAndre Hunter has still been on the minutes restriction, which I think was a surprise to some people. It was a surprise to me. Realistically, if you think about it, he's playing 6-man minutes, which is like between 25 and 28 minutes a game. So he's still playing like a good amount of basketball. He's just not being asked to play 30-plus minutes like he asked the starters to. So I don't know if that is like the fact they've done it this long, to me, makes me feel like it would have been a full season minute restriction thing if that's the case. With the injuries, that clearly changes plans for them. So we'll see what that means for DeAndre's role moving forward. But I saw people talking about it on Twitter about, DeAndre Hunter, the way he's playing really well. DeAndre Hunter, fun fact, shooting 42% from 3 this year. That's elite 3-point shooter status. He's really played really, really well and really, really efficiently, giving us a lot of those 20-point games in 25 minutes. And, really just, I think he's one of the top 4 scorers off the bench for the previous month of February. And that just kind of tells you like what the type of play he's been giving the Hawks recently coming off the bench. And so the question is that, what people are asking, what do you do with DeAndre Hunter this offseason? He's been playing so well, and if he continues to play this way going into the offseason, do you trade him? I think, people are kind of all over the place. Some are still like, some just feel like, oh, he's playing well now. It's just too late for me. I don't care if he's playing well. Get rid of him. Try to get somebody else in there. You have some people in the camp of, listen, still try to see if you can get a good deal for him. If not, I'm fine running it back with DeAndre Hunter and hopefully continuing in this role. And then you have some that are just like, no, keep DeAndre Hunter. He deserves it. I mean, he's playing like this. He seems like he's found a role off the bench. And why would we want to get rid of that? Especially in today's league where wings are such a hot commodity. And it's not always as easy as you think to just find another wing to replace a wing. Because, with DeAndre giving you what he's giving you, you got to make sure that you can find someone who can probably either you think can get the production that you're getting from him, get to that level of production within the season, or is better, right? And I, like I said, talked about it before that, for me, if Hunter's playing this way and he's okay coming off the bench, why don't you keep him? Why don't you just keep him on the bench and then, just find you a new starting three and kind of go with that if you can. So, that was just a suggestion I gave. But realistically, I mean, it's a discussion that's going to be had, and I think Hawks fans are going to be very curious to know what the front office wants to do or potentially decide to do because of the fact that Hunter has played really, really well and has done a lot of really good things. So, it's something that I'm sure people, like I said, are going to have questions a lot about. And Hunter, I think it's just so great for him. I think him unlocking that 3-point shot has done so many wonders for him because now he's a threat from three. He can get him a couple of baskets a game from three. He's, like I said, he's a guy who also attacks the paint now. He does it because, DeAndre used to be more of a mid-range guy. And obviously Quin has kind of changed that with certain players. He's allowed certain players to hit the mid-range. He's allowing players to take it a little bit more, but not a lot. He's just, still wanted to either attack the paint or shoot threes. But with DeAndre, he's kind of learning how to use him better. And I've said it since the beginning of the season that I feel like he's been using what they've been wanting DeAndre to do on the offensive end has really worked for him. Just try to get closer range shot, use his touch around the rim, but also, like I said, the fact that he's improved so much from the 3-point line has just done wonders for him. And so, overall for me, I think DeAndre Hunter, to me, I just don't, unless you're getting a really good player back, I just don't see you trading DeAndre Hunter this offseason. The only big thing, like I said, you have to see about is he going to come off the bench or start? Now, when he started this year, he wasn't bad. Like, he wasn't as good as he's playing now, but he wasn't bad. He was better than previous years too. So it's kind of like he wasn't bad as a starter. It's just, I think because of the fact that he's played so well and it seems so smooth since he's came off the bench, I can understand how that is a discussion. And then obviously with the knee injuries that he's had, you're thinking about, is it better for his knees to just come off the bench, not have as much wear and tear on him as, as a starter? So those are all questions that, are very valid in this situation with DeAndre and trying to figure out, is he the best guy right now to, hang on to out of guys you may want to move potentially this offseason. So, I mean, for me, I'm looking at the situation. I'm looking at, Trae Young, and him coming back, and I'm looking at, Okongwu when he gets back. And, somebody made a tweet, and I've said this multiple times earlier today. Dre, OO, and Jalen have all improved under Quin Snyder this year. You've seen it. You can't deny it. They've all played better. Which has just shown the development, which was one of the big things that Landry Fields and the front office wanted when they got a coach development. So I mean, and I'll make this quick mention. I always said with Nate McMillan, did it ever feel like any player got better under him? Not really. I feel like everybody was kind of the same player. But you've really seen this year under Quin Snyder, as much as people talk crap about Quin Snyder, think he's a terrible coach or think he hasn't made the best decisions, Can't say he hasn't developed guys. You can't say the staff hasn't developed guys. Hunter has improved. Even Bay has made improvements to his game. Even though he's been up and down this year, he's made improvement to his game. Um, you know, O has made improvement to his game. Jalen has made improvements to his game. So, overall, I think, with Dre making improvements, I think that groups him in with that group. It makes you maybe think, okay, yeah, we could definitely hang on to him with the improvements that he's made this season. So it's something to keep an eye on and something we're gonna have to see about. But up next, Hawks play Memphis this Friday. Memphis obviously has had their fair share of injuries this season as well. So the Hawks have a decent chance to get a 3-game winning streak started here against Memphis. They're in Memphis. So we'll have to see. Now, obviously, we'll see if Kobe Buff can get back for that game, maybe. I don't know. It'll be an 8 p.m. kick, typical 8 p.m. time for the Hawks, probably in 10 minutes, like 8:11. And so we're going to have to see. But yeah, Hawks get a good win tonight over the Cleveland Cavaliers. Both teams won it. Hawks win. Big story coming out of that game. Jalen Johnson hurt. Hopefully it's not too long, but could be the end of Jalen Johnson this season. We don't know. Before I go, don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Bryce_2K. Don't forget to subscribe if you're listening on YouTube. And don't forget to leave a review or rating if you're listening through audio podcasts. It's your boy Bryce Lewis. See you next time.